Hey there, and welcome to the sportsbookreview.com NCAA show. My name is Sam Walter.
And I'm Christopher Giannini.
We're going to take you around the world of college football here, getting closer and closer to the start of the 2021-22 college football season. We've got today for you our picks for the playoff and talking about some of the odds for national championship contenders here. Before we get into that, just want to make sure that you guys are sharing our show. If you like what you see, click that subscribe button, click that share button, click that little bell that gives us some notifications on when we're going live. We love what we're doing here. We love partnering with sportsbookreview.com. And if you like what you're seeing, tell a friend. I'd love to get all that out there. So Chris, with that said, today we are talking, like I said, about the Final Four, the playoff, still a 14 playoff for now. That is obviously up for discussion as we move forward. But until then, we've got a 4-team playoff. We've got some favorites going in here. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, like I said, the odds for winning the national championship. We wanted to find odds for actually making the playoff, but at this point, we haven't seen it. Like, no books are putting out odds to make the playoff at this point. So the numbers we're giving you are basically the numbers to win the national championship. And, we'll talk about our Final Four. We'll talk about our championship participators and championship winners and kind of go from there. Chris, who do you like? It's an interesting season, and there's some interesting numbers out there. So where shall we begin?
So I'm going to start with a team I think that has the absolute easiest route to get to the playoffs, and that is Clemson. Clemson's odds to win the whole thing are plus 475 is what I found on Bet Online, and I think they have the easiest route. I don't see a lot of competition in the ACC. The ACC's been real bad for a long time. Miami is getting better. This is supposed to be a magical year for North Carolina. Could one of those two teams jump up and take the throne from them? Maybe. But even if they lost to one of those two teams, there's a world in which they would still get in if they just had a one-loss season. So that's my first pick for making the playoffs. What do you think about Clemson?
Yeah, no, I'm completely with you on that. They shouldn't miss a beat. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence is gone. DJ Uiagalelei is in. We saw him a little bit last year, and I liked what I saw. Yeah. Another year of refinement, another year of growth for him. I think he'll be able to step in and get that Clemson offense humming, and that defense should be amazing. I think I'm a big fan of what Clemson's defense is going to look like. I agree. I mean, I think the ACC is theirs for the taking until proven otherwise. Clemson's coming out of the ACC, and I don't see a world where, there's no world an undefeated Clemson is not making the playoff. A one-loss Clemson depends on the loss, depends on when it is, and depends on who else is having magical years. But yeah, to me, I think the biggest no-brainer is Clemson making the playoff. I have them in there as well. And yeah, plus 475. I love that number. That's a pretty decent value if you're looking to get a clear favorite to win the championship.
That's right. Who you got going in? What's another team you've got?
Yeah, I'm going a little Big Ten homer here. Even though personally I'm not the biggest fan of Ohio State for having Northwestern, having seen them in the Big Ten championship the past couple of years, but I love what Ryan Day is doing with the Buckeyes program. Plus 700 to win the championship. That I think of the five kind of best thought of favorites, that's the best odds. Plus 700. I like that number. Obviously, Justin Fields is gone. It remains to be seen who's going to be taking over at quarterback. I don't love their secondary on the defensive side, but I think the rest of the offense is going to be humming. It's a solid offense, and they've got 5-star quarterbacks jumping in. So I like Ohio State, and you're giving to me at plus 700. I think that's for me, that's a great bet.
So I also have Ohio State in as well, and I'm with you. If I had to bet one of the favorites to win it all, my bet would be Ohio State, and it's strictly a price bet. If you told me I only get to pick one of the favorites with a ticket, give me the plus 700, because I don't think there's a whole lot difference between this year's Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, Oklahoma. I think they're all going to be right there. I think they're all going to be close. Georgia is going to be in that mix as well. And therefore, that's that. My next pick, I'm going with Oklahoma. This is supposed to be the best Oklahoma team that we maybe have ever seen. All right. They are loaded at every position. They've got transfers coming in. The defense is finally there. The offense is still going to be banging as much as it's ever done. This is Lincoln Riley's shot. If he doesn't win it this year with this roster, with this team, he might not ever win it. So there's going to be pure desperation, I do believe. I think everything sets up well for them. Lots of chaos going to go on in the Big 12. I'm curious to see how they muddle through that. Should be a good test getting them there. I think the Big 12 is going to be better. I think Oklahoma State's going to be better. I think Iowa State's going to be really good still. I think TCU's going to be better. So they're, and yet to be seen what Texas is going to look like. So they're not going to get in.
That's the big question, right? Yeah. Texas, huh?
They're not going to, if they get in, they're not going to get in unchallenged like they have in the past. And then when they finally play a great team, they get hit in the mouth and it's just shock syndrome and they don't know what to do. Their odds to win the whole thing is plus 600, like that. They haven't fared well in playoffs or in championship games in a long time. We're talking about big game Bobs, like first couple of years there. So that's yet to be seen, but I think they definitely have a really good shot of making the playoffs.
My next pick to make the playoffs, I don't love this pick from a betting standpoint, because Alabama at plus 250, they're the favorite. That's the lowest odds out there. But I think they're going to make the playoff. I cannot argue.
Hard to argue against it.
What was that?
Hard to argue against it.
Yeah. No, I mean, Nick Saban has built a juggernaut there. Yeah, they graduated a ton. And they've got a ton of 5-star talent coming right in. Talk about a team that just reloads rather than rebuilds. Nick Saban has that thing going there down at Alabama. And I think they're going to make the playoff. Would I bet them at plus 250? Probably not. It's just not the greatest value for me. If I think that they're going to make the playoff, which I do, I'm going to find different bets to get me there rather than, placing a futures bet at plus 250. There's, ways to parlay later on down the road, put together a couple wins in the playoff scenario, and you can get that plus 250 if you really, really want it. I just don't love betting on it right now, but I see them in the playoff for sure.
Yeah. They're always going to be there. I've got a dark horse. I've got a late bloomer. I've got somebody that I love. Anybody who watched us last year knows this is a team that I'm a huge fan of. And if they didn't have all the opt-outs that they had last year, I believe they would have given Alabama a much better game. And that is one Jimbo Fisher's Texas A&M Aggies. I think they're really good. I think they're loaded. I think they're a good football team. I think Jimbo is a really good coach. And he's a quarterback away from being special. Now, you say, well, but he lost the best quarterback in A&M history. Well, yeah, but so did Alabama. And so did Clemson. Oh yeah, and so did Ohio State, by the way. So if all of those guys can just pull a freshman or an unproven guy in and start winning, I think Jimbo can do the same damn thing. Let's not forget the championship that he did win at Florida State. He did it with a freshman quarterback. He did it with Jameis Winston when nobody knew who Jameis was or Jameis's name. All right. So to think he can't find somebody and groom them into being that special level of a player, it is insane to me. So if they get through the gauntlet of the SEC, if they get through beating Alabama and Georgia and Florida and all these teams to get to the SEC, to get through the SEC and make the playoffs, their odds of winning it are plus 2,500. And I absolutely believe they can win 2 games against 2 other elite teams to win it all. I would much rather be holding a ticket plus 2,500 with one of the 4 than a plus 700 or a plus 600 or something like that, a 475 like Clemson is. I like this team a lot. They were a pick of mine last year. we did our picks way early, and then we had all of the opt-outs. COVID was a mess. And they were still a great team, not a good team, a great team. So I'm thinking for more. I'm looking for more of them to be better this year. Who's your last pick?
My last pick, I'm taking a little bit of a long shot as well. I'm taking a plus 2,500 as well. And that is the Iowa State Cyclones. I love what Matt Campbell's been doing at Iowa State. I mean, Brock Purdy is good. He is a good quarterback, and I like to see him at the next level. I mean, that team is got it together. The Big 12 is tough. Yes, it is. But Iowa State has shown over the past several years that they are one of the big boys right now. Will they be a big boy for the future? Who knows? Matt Campbell probably isn't going to be there forever. But right now, if Iowa State can beat Oklahoma twice, which I think is what it's going to take, they're going to have to beat Oklahoma twice. If they beat Oklahoma early in the and then champion, that gets them battle tested enough to get into the playoff and maybe make some noise. Plus 2,500, like you said with Texas A&M, that's a nice little long shot bet. And the path for them to make the playoff is pretty straightforward. You don't have to squint too hard to see a way for them to get there. So plus 2,500, give me Iowa State.
Yeah, not a bad thing. So one favorite that we didn't have, neither one of us have in our playoffs. We both have Georgia missing out. Georgia is a plus 650 to win it all, and pretty heavily favored to make the playoffs in a lot of people's eyes. What do you think of Georgia this year? I think Georgia's. What's strange is I brought up Alabama, Alabama, Ohio State, and Clemson are all, I believe, significantly worse than they were last year. Okay. I think, maybe not significantly, I think they're all going to be worse teams than they were last year overall because they were really, really good last year.
Yeah, they were.
I think Georgia and Oklahoma are going to be significantly better than they were last year, but I still don't have Georgia making this thing.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, Kirby Smart, say what you will about his recruiting prowess, is fantastic. Like, that guy can recruit like nothing else, but he has yet to really show his ability to win a big game when it counts. Yeah, did Georgia make it to the championship game a couple years back? Sure, they did. And they lost on that overtime touchdown by Tua. But there's just something missing from Georgia, and if they could absolutely do it. I'm not going to rule them out at all because that is a talented team, and I think they're really good. But I don't know if they're going to be able to get out of the East. I mean, Florida is improved. Florida is going to be a tough out. Even if they get to Atlanta for the SEC championship, whoever comes out of the West, that's a tough out. It's not hard to see them with two losses. If they knock off Alabama or A&M as you have coming out of the West, they absolutely could make the playoff. But there's just something that I think is missing from Georgia at this point, and that's why I wouldn't jump on them at plus 650 here.
Well, everything's going to change after the first week of the season, right? Because
Absolutely.
Georgia plays Clemson, and if Georgia beats Clemson, everything we're talking about changes. And if Georgia loses that game, you brought it up. If they can't win the cocktail party, or if they get got somewhere else along the road, which they've done in the past, people just chalking up wins like they're going to happen. 2 years ago, this team was poised to be great. And they let South Carolina, one of the worst South Carolina teams we've seen in a long time, come into Athens and kind of whip them up. Okay, they got every call in the book on the fourth quarter, and they had every call in the book go in overtime, and they still couldn't win it. And much to do with that is because Kirby Smart. I believe Kirby Smart is a great recruiter. I also believe that Kirby Smart gets outcoached almost every game when it comes to X's and O's in-game strategy. I think he's probably a very good game planner. But as soon as the other team makes an adjustment, I feel like he always has a hard time making adjustments, and you're not getting out of the SEC. And if you do, you're not winning a championship, beating these other great teams that are all unbelievably well coached. If you don't learn to make adjustments, I do think this might be the most talented team Georgia's had since he's gotten there, though. So we'll see. That's the big favorite. I've got a couple of dark horse teams that nobody's looking at, or most people aren't, and they're obviously just not the fanfare favorite. And when we say their names, most everybody's just going to roll their eyes and say there's no chance. But that's why they're dark horses. That's why they're big prices. I got a couple. You got a couple. I'm going to give you my first one. Okay,
hit me.
It's the biggest one. It's my favorite team that I have circled to watch this year, almost every week, and that is Cincinnati Bearcats. I am so excited about what Luke Fickell was doing there. Do I think they can win the championship? Their odds are plus 8,000. Honestly, probably not. I'd have to get a pretty sauced to get going on a rampage of where my brain could get me there to where they could win it all. I wish, and this is where I'm going to be looking for, as long as until it's all over with, a ticket on them making the playoffs ticket. Because I do think that if there's ever a little edge, and it could, if there's ever a G5 school out there that they would maybe get in, it's Cincinnati. Cincinnati's going to have their opportunity on national TV against Indiana, who we both think is going to be a really good football team this year. They're going to have a national TV game at Notre Dame. If they win those two games, they're also going to play UCF, who I think is going to turn some heads this year and make a lot of noise in the American. Probably going to have to beat UCF twice. I think both those games are going to be on national TV. The whole world's going to be watching that. And we're going to see enough of them to where somebody's going to say, man, if we've got a fourth spot and we're teetering around, do we let this two-loss team in? Do we let this team in? I don't know who should go. The answer's got to be somebody's got to step up in the room and have the balls to say, we got to let Cincinnati in. We just got to give them a shot. If they get their ass beat, yeah, Washington got their ass beat once, and so did Michigan State, and so does Notre Dame when they get in there, and Oklahoma. So why can't we let them come in, and if they get their ass beat, who cares? Let them in.
It's just not going to happen. Not with a 14 playoff. Not right now.
Just nice in the heart. Sam.
The big money teams get in. That's what it's all about. Cincinnati does not drive ratings. ESPN, even though they say they don't have a voice in the room, they're not going to want to show a Cincinnati playoff game. The ratings would be terrible. They're going to they would bend over backwards to put like a Notre Dame in there if they're in the conversation. And I really think that with a 14 playoff, it's just, the opportunities have been there for an American, not FCS, but a group of 5 team to make the playoff. There's been chances. There's been openings. It hasn't happened. I don't see it happening in this year, and I don't see it happening until the playoff gets expanded. It's just, there is no love for the little guy when the big bucks of the TV side are in play.
I'm just hoping that the Big 12 is so pissed off at the SEC and ESPN that they have enough power and enough clout in that room where they say, we got to let them in because they see them as a partner at some point in time joining their conference. And if they make a playoff, it makes that look all the better. Who you got? Give me a dark horse for you.
There's just a lot of ifs in that statement that's going to scare me off a little bit. I think my biggest dark horse, and this team is plus 25,000, and I cannot figure out why. That's the Washington Huskies. There's not a lot of love on the West Coast. The Pac-12 has kind of been diminished. People aren't really paying attention to them. People don't really care about them. And, I get it. They've been down the past couple of years, but Washington is a really, really good team. They won the North last year. They couldn't play in the Pac-12 championship game because of COVID. Jimmy Lake steps in for Chris Peterson last year and does a great job. I like what is being built there. But the thing I like the most about the Washington Huskies is the plus 25,000. Like, oh my God, you don't have to squint hard to see a path for them to make the playoffs. USC is going to be better. Oregon is always right there. UCLA could be improved. Arizona State there are teams in the Pac-12 that if you beat, become signature wins. The Pac-12 isn't as big of a joke as I think a lot of people think.
I agree with that.
But you're giving me plus 25,000. Like, oh my God, it's a no-brainer. The path to the playoff isn't that hard for them. And, you get to the playoff, anything can happen any given Saturday, right? And plus 25,000. Come on.
All right, I got you. My logic for why the number is so big is because they could finish fourth or fifth in that conference.
Sure.
But that's okay.
They could.
That's okay. That's a big number. That's not too bad. So I've got two other dark horses. I'm going to lump them together because the logic is identical, and these teams are almost identical in the minds of most people and in the way they look. And that is the University of Florida and then my LSU Tigers. They're both plus 2,800, and there's a world where LSU finds some of that 2019 magic. Okay. Long shot, I understand.
Joe Burrow find another year of eligibility?
No, but we got Max Johnson, baby. Come on,
All
man.
right.
Max.
All right.
Listen, his daddy won a Super Bowl. How many other daddies out there won a Super Bowl that are playing right now? So I think there's a world where listen, both these teams have unbelievable amount of talent. All right. Like you've got Alabama and Georgia, and then just under them you have an A&M. You have just under them you have LSU and Florida in the talent level. They're not going to get outbeat because of talent by too many people. Okay, so if they can win a couple of key games in the right spots, get themselves through the SEC championship game, and win it, I believe if they make it to the playoffs, they won't be afraid of any of those teams, and they'll have just as good of a shot. And once again, I'd rather have a team that I think is really well coached and an unbelievable amount of talent and plus 2,800 over a team with a plus 475 or a plus 600 ticket. It's just the difference of, I think once we all get there, you can begin to hedge bets if you choose to, if you've got a plus 28 in your pocket. Sure. And so that's where I like that those two teams right there as a dark horse play. If you like one of those schools or you think you can find magic with one of them, I don't hate those odds. Give me your last dark horse. You got one more dark horse or two?
I got two more. Okay, I got two more, and
I got one more as well. So okay.
Notre Dame. I mentioned them earlier. You talk about politics. Notre Dame has it. Yes, last year they were in the ACC. They played that ACC schedule. They beat Clemson once, and the second time the loss wasn't bad enough to knock them out. They go back to their independent schedule. They still play a lot of ACC teams, and they're putting USC back on the schedule. They're playing a Notre Dame schedule, so it's tough. They have shown that if they win out, the committee is not afraid to put Notre Dame in the playoff because they're the blue butt. They're Notre Dame. They ring out the echoes, right? Plus 6,600. They were in the playoff last year. They could get back again. Jack Cohn as their quarterback. I don't love Cohn. I saw him plenty at Wisconsin, but Brian Kelly is a great offensive coach. And if he can come in and get Cohn to the next level, which is absolutely possible, I see a world where Notre Dame can get back into the playoff. Again, they got curb stomped last year, and they got curb stomped the last time they were in the playoffs. So, can Brian Kelly win a big game, under the lights, in front of the whole world? Remains to be seen. But again, the value at plus 6,600, if they can, I know I'm using the if that I called you out on before, but if they can, plus 6,600 is a nice little payoff.
Yeah, that's why these numbers are big. So, and my last play is North Carolina. I think North Carolina is really good this year. I think they've got the best quarterback they've had in a long time, maybe the best quarterback in school history. I think they've got a head coach that knows how to win postseason football games and win big games. So I think that if they can find their way through Clemson and they get to this thing, listen, Mac Brown has not just won a national championship. Mac Brown won maybe the greatest national championship ever played. And he knows how to get his guys fired up. He knows how to make sure they're ready. This is a hire a couple of years ago when he got that job that I kind of laughed at, and I just kind of poo-pooed and disrespected. I'm not saying they're going to win the national championship, but at plus 5,000, I'm not afraid of this number. And there's a world where Clemson takes a step back, and if they lose to Georgia and they lose to North Carolina in the ACC title game, Clemson's out. They're not coming in, and they're not getting in with 2 losses with the rest of that schedule, which means it's a clear path for North Carolina to smooth right in their spot. And, we'll see how they fare once they actually have to play much better competition.
So for my last one, I'm going to do a 2-for-1. You did a 2-for-1.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a 2-for. Out of the Big Ten, Indiana is plus 10,000, and the world where Indiana can knock off Ohio State is absolutely there. If Michael Penix plays the way he played last year, they were right there with Ohio State last year. Indiana was, only lost by 1 touchdown, and they were playing with Ohio State the whole way. That defense is going to be real good. Tom Allen is an amazing coach, and he is like the American Ted Lasso, right? You're just the greatest human being, that I've seen coaching in a really, really long time. All Indiana needs to do, is knock off Cincinnati, who they're playing, and then get past Ohio State, and then beat whoever they see from the West. And you're giving me plus 10,000. I like that bet quite a bit. My other one from the Big Ten would be Wisconsin. Talk about defense. Jim Leonard and that Badger defense are going to be off the hook good this year. They're at plus 5,000. This is going to be, I think, have to get past Iowa. They're going to have Northwestern, and then they're going to have to get past either Indiana, Penn State, or Ohio State, whoever comes out of the East. So it's tough, but it's doable with the defense that Wisconsin is going to be fielding this year. I would pick Indiana at plus 10,000 over Wisconsin at plus 5,000, just because I think the value is there. But I think the chances of one of those two teams making it into the playoff is definitely a possibility. So those are my long shots. Before we kind of put a bow on this one, who do you got winning it all? Like, you have to pick one of these bets to make right now. Who are you picking?
So my final 4 recap: Clemson, Ohio State, A&M, Oklahoma. And I think I'm going back to the well one more time. I'm going with Jimbo Fisher. I'm going with Texas A&M.
Right.
That's my 2021, 2022 national champion. I think he's going to find magic this year.
So my final 4 is Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and Iowa State. I like what Ryan Day is doing. I know their defense is a little bit flawed. That secondary has some work to do. There is a weakness there. But Ohio State at plus 700, I think, is the best bet, and that's who I got winning the whole thing. So
it's what's funny? They're losing the best quarterback they've ever had. That receiver room might be the best in college football history. It's projected to be, at least. So we'll see if it actually plans out. But with a new quarterback that has never taken a snap at Ohio State, is there a world where they have one of the best offenses we've ever seen? That's crazy.
You mentioned it before. Jameis Winston stepped in at Florida State and won a national championship as a freshman.
It's happened.
It's absolutely possible. And the talent they have in that quarterback room, whoever comes out of it, is going to be a really, really good quarterback. So thrown to those receivers, with that running game the way it is, that offensive line is going to be loaded. Yep. So I will go with Ohio State.
All right.
So I got Ohio State. You got Texas A&M.
Yes, sir.
That is, I think, all we have for you today. If you like what you saw, go ahead and share it with a friend. Click that share. Subscribe to the show. Hit that notification bell. So when we're coming live, you know that we're coming, and you can come on and chat with us. Head on over to sportsbookreview.com to get all of these lines. The great thing about Sportsbook Review is, they have all of the different books, and on one page you can shop for your prices, and you can find if you're loving Washington at plus 25,000, you can find it there, and there is some big fluctuation with these numbers. So you like what you see, head on over to sportsbookreview.com, find your bets, get them in before the season starts, and head on over there. They've got all the props. They're going to have all the weekly lines. And really, really good stuff. Anything else, Chris?
That's it, man.
All right. My name's Sam Walter. You can find me on Twitter at numtender21.
And I'm Christopher Giannini at Christopher Giannini. And we'll see you next time.
Absolutely. We'll see you next time.